I'm going to go through a few key books on followership. That way you don't have to read them all, but I'll give you the high points. We mentioned Robert Kelly and his seminal book on followership called The Power of Followership. He said we spend more time reporting to people than having people reporting to us. Leaders are typically valued more than followers, but oh, the power of followership. Aristotle was a follower. Thomas Jefferson was a follower first before he became a powerful leader. He was the junior member on his committee. People only knew that he wrote the Declaration 8 years after he did it in a newspaper. He was humble, but he was also being developed, being taught, learning. Aristotle followed in big shoes of Plato. How about Jesus followers, unsung heroes that had an impact for generations to come? Most all the training and self-help books are on becoming a better leader. Our Constitution says we, the people, not we, the leaders. And so there's a powerful impact that followers make. So appreciating that as a leader is important. Follower originally meant to help, assist, and minister to. Kelly says that followers contribute to 80% of the results of an organization. Intelligent, independent, takes initiative, owns it, participates, has courage, and is a self-starter. He also said there were several paths to effective followership. Being an apprentice, on-the-job training, being a disciple, living and soaking in someone's presence, being a mentee, a comrade, a loyalist, or a dreamer. Kelly discussed 5 followership styles. The standout style was exemplary. These followers were high in independent thinking and active engagement. They took initiative, they took ownership, they thought for themselves, they participated actively, they were self-starters, they were competent. Alienated followers were high in independent thinking but low in engagement. They tended to be a maverick. They were the healthy skeptic, which is a positive thing. They played the devil's advocate, but they could be cynical and disgruntled. Conformists were high in active engagement and low in independent thinking. They were team players, trusting, didn't like a lot of conflict, but they lacked great ideas. They weren't threatening at all, but they conformed. They just fell in line. Pragmatists were in the middle of both of those. They were attuned to politics. They kept things in perspective, towed the middle line, and they bargained, kind of middle of the road. And then passive leaders were low in both independent thinking and engagement. They relied on the leader, waited for instruction, the laissez-faire follower, if you will. They put in the minimum time. They followed the crowd. Kelly also mentioned something that not many others have, and that was called servant followership. We are going to talk about servant leadership, but he said this is someone who doesn't desire a leadership role at all. They provide leaders with information, with solutions. They educate leaders. They understand them. They understand goals. They take responsibility, and they're loyal and committed. That'd be a great person to have work for you. And there are those people who they don't desire to be a leader. They just want to contribute and be a great team player. So if you find those, hang on to them, especially if they're good ones. This is my favorite. It has many different authors and contributors on many different topics. It was written in 2008. A leader can create a culture of successful followers, and the leader is responsible to do that by listening, by hearing other viewpoints, by getting followers to think like a leader, by sharing wins, sharing recognition, by having a reciprocal relationship, a partnership with shared responsibility, being willing to laugh and be open and honest and even cry. I cried with one boss. We had many struggles, but we had one pretty impactful day because we had an open and honest dialogue and relationship, and it was powerful. We were both pretty embarrassed afterwards, and I'd never done that in the rest of my career. But having that type of relationship, and that may not be with every employee, but with certain employees where you connect and develop that relationship, you create that reciprocity and that culture. Kelly talked about 5 styles in rethinking followership. The first was the sheep. They were just directed, guided, passive, and they went. The yes people, some of the yes people are good to have on your side. You just don't want all yes people. They're positive. They look to you as the thinker. They're the doer. They're always asking, what's next? Let's go. The alienated, someone who has negative energy. You need to make sure you want that person on the bus, on your team. They're skeptical. They may be smart, though. They may have subject matter expertise that you need. They may need coaching. You may need human resources help. You may need to read a couple books on how to deal with them. The pragmatist, on the fence, slow to decisions, status quo, but they can bring an analytical view and taking their time to look at problems. Roger Adair came up with a 4D approach and said there were 4 types of followers categorized by their job satisfaction, productivity, and turnover. Discipled are the servers. They sacrifice. They're givers. They're close to you. It's good to have them. Doers, go-getters. They're focused on meeting their personal needs. They're competitive. They may be career-focused, may not be strategic, may focused on execution, but they're solid and good to have doers. The disengaged, those are the passive, detached, in some cases laissez-faire, closed-minded, guarded. They may limit their communication, but if you can engage them and if you push the right buttons, sometimes you can turn the disengaged around. Disgruntled, they're actively vocal, usually in a negative sense, combative, closed to other views. So those are difficult employees. You may have to discipline them or develop them. Hopefully you do it not in that order. Try and develop them and then discipline them as necessary. Most employees are disciples or doers, but you will have disengaged and disgruntled. Ira Shaloff wrote the book, The Courageous Follower. And instead of subordinate and submissive followers, we're seeing more shared leadership. The term follower can conjure up images of weakness, a doormat, conformity, but courageous relationships will lead to courageous followers. Shaloff talked about 5 dimensions of courageous followership. Assuming responsibility. Don't look up. Own your career. Be secure and confident in your growth. Create opportunities and take initiative. Serving. Hard worker. Taking care of your leader. Staying alert. Making up for others' weaknesses. Asserting oneself and pursuing and developing a common purpose. The courage to challenge. Speaking when not comfortable. Constructive conflict, standing up for what's right, raising your hand, risking rejection, integrity, honesty, ethics. Participate in transformation, recognizing the need for change, partnering with your leader, being an advocate for change, being a full participant, and then having the courage to take moral action. At the right time, stay consistent with your values, object to moral issues. Shaloff came up with 4 different types of followers. He looked at measuring a follower's support to their leader and how much they challenge the leader in their leadership. The resource will do what you tell them to, but that's about it. They're passive. They don't challenge leaders. They're not change management advocates, but they may be very valuable. The individualist. They can be trouble. They can have their own opinion. They like to do it their way. They may know better. But they also may go get information for you and be a good partner and a thought leader. The implementer. They're the ones that do the heavy lifting. They believe in the mission. They treat it as theirs. They may not be leaders themselves, but they're committed. They're dedicated. They just need some guidance. And you need these people on your team. And then the partner, the one who respects the leader, who cooperates, who adheres to the vision, who enrolls in it, helps direct, helps guide, but is willing to challenge you when necessary. Those are courageous followers. Barbara Kellerman wrote the book, The End of Leadership. She notes a power shift. Followers are gaining more power and their influence continues to grow. If you look around us at democracy and the protests and to some level the entitlement that some followers need and want, the respect for leaders and authority decreasing, there has been a power shift with more power to we the people, to the followers, in some respects. Maybe not politically, but we won't go there. But you will see it in the language in both the corporate world and the ministry world. More of an emphasis on teamwork, collaboration, participation, consensus, cooperation, a lot of buzzwords, networking, empowering. And a lot of those leadership philosophies are reflecting this change. But the best type of followers are engaged with their leaders. They're involved in the vision. They're involved with the goals, even if it's not offered by the leader. Try and get involved in developing the vision. Of course, the best leaders involve the followers in developing and setting the vision, but the best followers are also motivated by others and not their own self-interest. They seek to serve and make the organization a better place. Kellerman talked of 5 types of followers. The isolators, they were least engaged, don't really care, don't communicate, some don't show up for meetings. The bystander, they observe without active participation. They allow the status quo to continue. If you look at what happened in Nazi Germany, this had a lot to do with that. Being a leader is standing up. Being a person of faith is standing up at the right time. Speaking the truth in love, but not just being a bystander, being a participant. Participants are moderately engaged. They can be a supporter or opposition or a participant. So you may have positive or negative participants. And then activists, these are folks that have strong feelings, they're energetic, they're highly engaged. They work to serve, or they may work to undermine you. Make sure you know who those people are if you can. And then the diehards, they are totally committed to you and willing to die for you. Or maybe not that far, but they are totally committed. Or on the other hand, you could have diehards that are totally opposed and nothing that you do will change them. So I hope that was a great summary of followership. I hope you're taking the time outside of class to develop your understanding and knowledge and turn it into wisdom. Take care.